Hello again guys, and welcome to our first explanation video regarding the demonstrations of pugilistic technique. And we're going to start with the most basic techniques of them all regards defense, and that is the outward parry. And on the screen in front of you, you can actually see a sort of basic description that I've written for what the outward parry is. In essence, it's still a defense used in modern day boxing today, and it is a technique used to defend yourself essentially against straight blows directed towards your head, i.e. the jab and the cross. And so the outward parry is really just a simple deflection performed with an outward movement of the defending arm outwards against the incoming strike. This deflects the strike away from the head and prevents it doing any serious damage, if damage at all. However, of course, perfection isn't always required. If the opponent throws a very heavy cross, for example, and you attempt an outward parry, this would still be to some degree effective, but the power of the strike may be enough to overcome the parry at least to some degree. At this point, the parry isn't there to fully avoid the blow. The whole point of being a pugilist is the general acceptance that you are going to get hit. However, the deflection at least moves the blow so it becomes a glancing hit at best. And this is really the true art of pugilism. As I say, the acceptance that you are going to get hit, you are going to get hurt, but to minimize the damage as much as possible and to put the accuracy of the strike to a minimum. However, the true value of this parry comes in the fact that it actually sets up a riposte, as Daniel Mendoza would of course describe it, but to you and I, this is a counter. Ultimately, when you perform the outward parry, you are to immediately follow it up, as you've seen in the videos between me and my sister, the demonstration videos. You are to immediately follow it up with a strike of your own coming from the opposite hand. That is to say, if you were to parry with your left hand, you follow it immediately with a right cross of your own directed at the head of your opponent. This is a great way to punish your opponent for aggression. Not only protecting yourself, but setting yourself up for a very effective counter-strike. Regards the counter-strike itself though, does it always have to be a straight? Well, the straight is the easiest and the quickest punches to throw, and so it adds itself or lends itself to being set up as a very quick and powerful counter to a technique like this. However, pugilism is an adaptable martial art, if you wish. It is designed to be simple and adaptable to whatever situation you may find yourself under. This was self-defense 101 within the times when it was used. It was designed as a way of defending yourself against armed robbers, muggers, and anyone who would of course seek to do you harm. And so as a result, if you find yourself in a situation where it is perhaps more effective to throw, I don't know, let's say an uppercut, in which case this would actually be quite an effective technique, providing you're close enough to your opponent, then of course throw it. There are no set rules, so to speak, only the golden basics, if you wish, the golden rules and principalities that you should follow, but they are adaptable and malleable to the situations you find yourself under. So by all means, guys, if you are doing this and you find yourself in a position to throw a very precise, very powerful uppercut or even a hook to your opponent, then do so. However, in my opinion, I think a hook in this situation would be very difficult to throw effectively, simply because of the position of your body, your weight distribution, and the fact that you have one arm on your opponent, preventing you from really turning your body into the punch. So I feel a hook in this situation is probably the least effective punch that you can throw, and it's also one of the slowest. An uppercut is a great punch to throw, but you have to be close. And so the most effective, or at least the easiest one to use, would of course remain to be the straight. Now this parry has greater value than just simply allowing you to counter your opponent with another strike of your own. The whole point about pugilism is, yes, about being simple and repeatable, but also being unpredictable to your own degree. Also, you don't want to be doing the same techniques again and again and again, because your opponent may throw a punch almost like a feint, expecting you to throw a straight encounter, and may have obviously an answer of their own to your strikes. And so One of the things that the outward parry can be used very effectively to do, and we'll be touching upon this in a later demonstration video that I have the footage for but just editing together, is the fact that the outward parry allows you then to close your arm around the head of your opponent. Essentially, after performing the outward parry, your hand is probably going to be somewhere on the forearm towards the elbow of your opponent if done correctly. It may be towards the wrist, but you know, that's not a problem either. Now what you do is you use the arm of your opponent to guide your arm, to slide it down their arm if you wish to where their shoulder is, and of course from the shoulder it's only a short distance to the head. And what you do is you slide your parrying arm down their arm to the back of the head, where then you of course get a grip and a hold upon your opponent. And from here you are then in essentially what is described as a standing chantry. As I say, we'll go over the pugilistic throws and clinches and holds and grapples in a later video, but this is one of the ways in which you can initiate a grapple through a defensive technique. And if you like close range fighting, or you need to get a breather and you want to hold your opponent, this is a great way to really shut down an overly aggressive opponent and turn the tables on them by bringing it to a much closer range. It's a great way to also, of course, as I say, closer range with a taller fighter, who of course will be striking at you probably with greater efficiency at range. And this is one way which you can reduce the range quite successfully and quite safely, because of course you're pinning their arm in place as you perform the technique. As I say guys, we will have footage describing these techniques in greater detail and showing you, but it's just a touch on at the moment to introduce that concept that of course pugilism does involve grappling and clinch work, and of course throws from there also. Well, that's it today guys for the outward parry movement. I will be coming back with other videos describing in detail some of the techniques I've already covered in our first demonstration silent movie video that we've already done, and of course I will be coming back with additional footage that you haven't seen yet, as I just mentioned, regard to throws and grapples. And that is where pugilism gets really interesting, but you got to start with the basics, the simple parts to start with. And of course strikes are some of the most important aspects of pugilism, because that's kind of how you end the fight, isn't it? Now thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back as soon as I can. The editing for these style of videos does take quite a long time, so that's why the videos are going out a little bit slower than they were at the very beginning. But what I might do in the meantime also is just throw in the odd little bonus video, fighter focuses, fighting footage, things like this. So there's plenty to come, don't worry, and I will see you very, very soon, hopefully. For now though guys, ta-ta and bye-bye.